All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our FME Powering Enterprise Dashboards webinar. This morning, my name is Kieran Kirk. I'm the Operations Director with Data Builders and IMGS, and joining me today is Gavin Park, our CTO. Hi, Gavin.
Morning.
All right, so I see people are just jumping on board there, so we'll pretty much stick to time, so we'll get going now. So as I said, introductions done. So the presentations today will be from Gavin, who is our lead CTO and lead solution consultant and FME general FME expert. I think Gavin, yeah. I'm general kind of expert in nothing, but know a few things. So today we're going to talk about who we are in Data Builders, the roadblocks to analytics. I'll give a quick overview of FME, and then Gavin is going to jump right in and show you how to build some workflows and go through some workspaces with FME. Get marketing right, FME form. This morning we're pretty much focusing on FME form. So we're showing you how to build these manipulation workflows that can then be brought into your dashboards. And then I'll take my life in my own hands and during the demo and show a bit in Power BI and a bit in Tableau how we can connect to the data and use the data that that FME is generating. So who are we? Data builders have the expertise and the solutions to align with your business goals and create a single source of truth, granting you access to the full power of your data. And through our strategic partnerships with industry-leading tools, we have created a 360-degree solution set. So this morning you're going to see Safe Software FME, which is our data integration and data manipulation platform. We also have a data governance solution called Data Galaxy, and we have our own BI solution, which is Sisense. We're not going to talk too much about Sisense today because we're going to talk about how FME can power data into your dashboards, no matter what dashboard system you're using. So what are the roadblocks to analytic success? Well, we know that everyone's well aware there's a data explosion, and by next year we're expecting that worldwide data will have grown to by 175 zettabytes. I remember when gigabytes were big. Now we're also seeing a skill set gap. You know, last year or 2 years ago, we're seeing that only 10% of organizations will use augmented analytics to its full potential. And again, a lack of adoption. So on average, analytics are leveraged by only 30% of an organization. So this is because in our mind, a lot of companies spend a lot of time wrangling with data and trying to use what are mainly visualization systems in Power BI or Tableau or whatever your platform to manipulate data when actually you should be using them to visualize and generate insights and using a solution like FME to actually streamline and build data pipelines. So organizations today need new levels of flexibility. So embracing this new data landscape and technology is crucial to your business growth. So that's where the FME platform comes in. So with FME, it has the largest ecosystem, and it's the only data integration platform with geospatial support, with real geospatial support, we would say. It allows you to deploy anywhere, whether it be on the cloud, in private data centers, on network. It can run in a hybrid architecture. Wherever you need to run your data, you can put your integration there. You can get everything you want. So FME, Safe Software, don't have a complex product levels. It's 2 levels of product. FME Form, which is desktop as we used to know it, where you create your workflows, and FME Flow, where you automate these workflows. And it provides unrivaled productivity. Big thing what you're going to see this morning is no coding. All the workflows that Gavin is building are all being done using the drag and drop solution. And with Safe Software, they talk about the restaurant model that, yes, they have a fantastic product, but they've also got fantastic support. So offering the best of both, which makes you want to come back for more. So FME integration platform, I do see some customers out there who I've met before who would have been long-term users of FME. So just to give you the old branding and the new branding so you get it right, FME Form was FME Desktop, and that's where you build your workflows. FME Flow was previously FME server, and that's where you build your automations. And then FME flow hosted is naturally that in the cloud. We still have FME mobile, which allows you to do some data processing on your mobile device. And as well as that, there is FME augmented reality, which allows you to do data visualization in an augmented reality world. Big part of the data explosion is that not all this data is in one source. You're getting it in many types, in many locations, in many different types of systems, many different silos all over the place. So all this data is coming from everywhere. So you need a platform that can connect to all these data sources so that you can take advantage of the data. So with FME, as you can see, hundreds of formats supported, and over the last 30 years, they've just grown and grown and grown the type of data that they support, whether it's files, databases, GIS files, and now things like cloud data warehouses, IoT, so sensor devices, up to now supporting AI and generative AI and being able to push data to your generative AI solutions to get even better insights. FME supports them all. And that is where FME really steps ahead of trying to do everything in your BI or dashboard solution. You need this wide variety of integration and being able to automate and pull in this information from all these sources and make it ready for analysts to use in their BI platform. So we're not going to spend too much on slides today. So we're going to hand over. I'm going to first off hand over to Gavin, who's going to show you a workflow, and then I'll jump back in a second and show you that data in the BI solution.
Thank you. Let me just share my screen. So with this one, it's just a really simple introduction in terms of looking at what we can do with some of the data. So in this case, we're bringing in just a very simple data set that is looking at sports facilities. So it's actually coming from a web service. So we're reading this web service in. It's a spatial web service. So you can see we've got all the location components are coming through as part of this. We've got some simple address information. There's some additional attributes. We've got some random address fields in here. So it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to some of the quality. We've got the region attribute, for example, here, which is just set all the way through. It's a data set published by Dublin City Council. It's just an open data set. But it's kind of one where we think, well, okay, that's quite handy, but there's a lot of redundant information in there. So the idea with this is we can try and take this, we can tidy some of this information up, put a little bit of basic structure around it, and then we're going to write this out. And in this case, we're going to write this out to Tableau. So the idea is we can take this process data, put it into a Tableau hyperfile, and then we can plug that hyperfile straight into Tableau. And that'll be a nice clean data set that's just going to work straight out of the box. It's also going to carry the geometry through. So we can set this up to carry through our geometries, but we're just going to use a simple string concatenation. So we're just going to concatenate that first address into our second address together. I'm going to comma delimitate those, but there is a little bit of white space and things going on. So if you dig into the data, it's not particularly tidy. We don't want like trailing commas at the end of it. There seems to be a lot of those that have come through. So we're just going to put a trim function in here as well. So we can quickly set that up and actually just tidy up that address to give us one common address field. Then obviously said there's quite a few fields in here that aren't particularly useful. So we can just come in and we can say, well, okay, we don't really need the two address fields. We've created a new site address. The NACE code is obviously consistent. So in this part of the output, it's not really adding any value because we know at this point it's a sports facility. And again, we don't really care too much about the region because it's fairly obvious. Now, we've kept the sensor small area, the electoral division information in here. Again, you may think, well, actually, that's not really very relevant for me. So we could just click on those, and that would then remove that as part of our workflow and just strip them out. We don't have any way of actually uniquely identifying the data though. So what we can do in here is we're just going to generate a unique ID. So we can come in and we can choose the type of identifier we've got. There are three of the sort of commonly supported ones. So it's your classic UUID. You've got the GUID, which is the squiggly brackets one. So if you've ever done anything with Esri, for example, you're probably quite familiar with those little squiggly brackets on your UUIDs. And there's also this new ULID as well, which gives you some sortable identifiers. So it's a little bit more of a structured identifier. This one's becoming a little bit more popular, I think, as it's kind of picking up a bit of traction. We're just going to pop that into an ID field. And then I can just run through this workflow. So I've already read in the data, and I can just tidy that up. And then that's going to give me that kind of slightly nicer, tidier data set that I can just plug straight through. Now we've got our new site address information that's just there as one field. And then I can just write this straight out to this hyper file. So I'm just going to write this .hyper. So that'll just spit that one out. And then we've got that file just sat here then that we can plug straight into Tableau. And I think Kieran's already managed to write that one through. And say it'll carry the geometry in this case as well. So we can specify whether we want the point lines and polygons. So Tableau's not particularly sophisticated when it comes to spatial support. So you've got very basic geometry types. So if we needed to do something a little bit more sophisticated, we could have stripped that geometry down into just being a point or a line, from maybe a more complex geometry type or an aggregated geometry type. We could have simplified that as well as part of our workflow process. But that just gives us a nice simple run through for what we've got there. So did you want to show the dashboard, Kieran, or do you want me to have a look at the next one?
Yeah, I'll show it quickly, Gavin. Yeah. So not overly a Tableau expert. Sisense is my baby, but I know enough to be dangerous. So what we can see here is we have the sports hyperfile that Gavin has extracted, and then in Tableau then you can create your sheets. So your sheets reach your widgets so that you can then build up your dashboard. So the first one I did here was just taking in the top sport facilities by count, by electoral area. I then just broke them down for the Dublin City area, and then you have a nice widget here to show the breakdown and the bigger area map to show the bigger areas by the size and the counts. And then I took Gavin's little geography field here, took it across, and we see now we have our map on the screen showing all these sports facilities in the Dublin area. Then I was able to add that into the dashboard. I can now drag my map in here because I just did it in a second ago, and you can see it's now on the screen, and we can now have our map, and we're able to pull all that data in. So it was as quick. All we had to do was open the hyper file, create the widgets. Straight away we're creating insights. So no data manipulation. Gavin done all the tidying up, all the data prep in FME. Yes, he was pulling from a web server. He could have been pulling from multiple sources, but he created one single hyperfile that then we can then bring the data in really quickly and analyze inside Tableau. So no data wrangling. Now, again, Tableau has some good, in the data sheet, you can do some manipulation. So in the data source, you can start building models here. You can do some extractions and things, but that is fine if it's small data sets, fine if it's, small manipulations. But when it comes to doing complex changes at large scale at data, that's where you're going to struggle in a local environment like that. With FME, we can pull all our information together and produce it to the destination and in a nicely named file that the users can then analyze on. You can see here now the field names are all tidied up. All make sense for the analyst. The analyst isn't looking at table names and database column names, which sometimes can be complex. They're looking at ready data that they can then analyze in their BI system. That's what FME does. So I can bring that in. Thanks, Gavin. I'll let you show the next workflow.
So the next one was a similar concept, but this time we've taken some of Netflix data. So they actually publish a list of all of the top 10 shows, and for TVs and movies, and obviously they run that through the whole time, but that's global. So they give you a whole data set. We've got show titles, the seasons, the cumulative weeks, etc. in here. But we're thinking, okay, we actually really need a subset of this data set. So whilst we can read in, like it's a tabbed CSV file, so it's nice and easy for FME to bring that through, we actually want to start to remove some of that data. So what we're doing here is we've gone out, and actually it's a Canadian source. They have a whole list of different codes. So again, it's actually a HTML table they have up online. We can get FME to scrape that table, just read the table it needs the data in from, and then we can get obviously the country with its 2-digit or 2-letter identifier, and that matches to the identifiers that are within the Netflix data. But this data is only for EU countries. GB still sneaks in there. They obviously haven't updated it, so we're still sneaking in. And then we can bring that through. So again, I've just used the attribute manager to tidy it up. And then we're just going to join this data set together. And this is basically just going to strip out all of the countries that are outside the EU so we can reduce down the volume of data. So rather than putting, nearly 255,000 records through, we're actually going to bring it down to just the 76,000 we need. So we're going to basically front load a lot of that filtering out into FME rather than getting the dashboarding tool to do that for us, be it Power BI, Sisense, or Tableau, etc. And again, we want to actually start to analyze these slightly differently. They're two very different types of content. So we might say, well, okay, we want to take the film information and the TV information. We actually want to split that out so that we can look at those two separately because they're different types of media. And again, we can do a little bit of attribute management. So like Kieran was saying, we can tidy up all of these quite abstract names that come through. Strip out the ones we don't want. We could come in and rename some of these if need be to. So we could actually get these into something that's a little bit more common sense when the user does it. And again, we've just repeated that here. Because again, there's two slightly different data feeds. And in this case, totally non-spatial. There's no geometry or anything. With this, it's obviously just attribute data. And again, we're going to write that into the Tableau files on the end here. So we're going to end up with our hyper files coming out that we can then plug straight in, and then we can do any analytics on top of that. I say, did you get a chance to have a play with that one, Kieran, or was that?
I did, yeah. Let me just share that one now. So again, very quickly, you can see how we can bring the data in. You can see how Gavin's field names have come in, and also then because Tableau is smart, it's creating counts and doing things for us, so we're actually able to bring that data in. So yeah, I took the top ranked countries by the weekly rank. We can start adding in extra information here. So, change your widgets, change your control. Similarly, I took that data in and put it to a map, even though, as Gavin said, we're not using a map this time, but Tableau is very clever. It actually knows which country we're talking about and it's based on. I noticed that, and I have a filter on, but I noticed Ireland hasn't come up, but the UK did. Something going on there, but maybe that's just the way I'm bringing the data in. So you can see the counts coming in on the map, and you can see that data coming in straight away. And again, it's really easy. Once the data is in the hyper file, we can go in and create a new workspace. If Tableau just plays ball here with me for a second. The screen's gone off. I'm not sure it's. But yeah, I can take in a new data source. Oh, there's it gone. Sorry, it's just a bit slow. So I can go create a new. So I'm connecting my data. More. Sorry, screen has gone off here, and let me go ahead that again. Yeah. So if I just bring in new data source here, and hyper. Oh, yeah, it's not about playing balls in a second. So you can see there's the data, and the data sources here. So we have our films, we have our TV as Gavin has brought them in. So we can actually look at the data, we can analyze it, but it's now ready for Tableau and that you can actually see it. You can do it as the live connection or the extract from the data and publish it in. All right, there we go, Gavin.
Thank you. So say they're relatively straightforward examples. They're not particularly complex.
There was a trial button coming up on my tablet. That's why I kept getting funny. Okay, I've seen it. Yeah.
It's always that hidden off-screen icon.
Yeah.
It's, one of the ones, obviously, what we tend to want to do, though, is to look at how we can manage the data. So in this particular example here, we've got a whole bunch of statistics that are coming through. But quite often, we get data that's structured like this. It runs across the page. It doesn't really give us the right structure for what we want to do in our analytics tool, be that a GIS tool, be that a power dashboarding tool, or anything really. It becomes a lot more cumbersome to try and manage this data. So FME is actually quite good at manipulating the data. So we can bring this data around, and we can actually basically pivot the data, so we can transpose it so it's actually easier to work with when it comes in. So this is just taking some census data, but you'll see we've got lots of different fields in here. It's come from an Excel spreadsheet. So if I just jump into the Excel, you can see that it's probably quite a classic data structure. We've got our total population, etc. It runs down here. It reads very nicely as a human, but it's not very machine readable. You can't find the different total lines, for example, that we want. So we've got our total population, and obviously then we have everything broken down, where actually we just want the total population for our analytics. So obviously what we can do with FME is actually start to filter those lines down. So in this case, we're saying, well, like our first column has all of the information in it. So we're just going to say find all those rows that begin with total, because that's going to be our total lines. And then we'll end up with all of our different statistics, our total population by age groups, census, families in private housing, etc. So we can actually start to just pull out the information that we're interested in. And then what we can do is we can use the attribute exploder transformer, which is a slightly randomly named transformer. But essentially what it will let you do is pivot that information around. So when we first run it, we get an awful lot of information coming out. But the key bits that we want are this area name and stat value. So this is the pivoted data set. But again, that's not really very well structured. So there's a couple of things we need to do just to make that a little bit simpler. So we can come into the attribute manager and we can strip out all the redundant attributes. When we've pivoted the data, it carries through all the existing information as well. So we end up with a lot of noise in there. So this just simplifies it down, so we can start to see that we have our total population by age groups. We've got our statistics values, and then we've got our different regions as we come down here. So it starts to make a little bit more sense once you get rid of all of that content. But what you will notice is we do have a couple of totals here. So this is some data from SAFE. So they've obviously done from Vancouver, which is where they're based. So we've got some top level numbers in here for the city and the area. Again, not really what we're after, because we're interested in that more granular data. So again, I can start to filter that data and say if I've got any values that are of CMA Vancouver or Vancouver CSD, I can actually filter those out, just get rid of those total lines. So again, we've got sort of totals for each. And I'm going to take the unfiltered data in this case, because that's really what we're interested in. And then we can start to do a little bit of processing with that. So in this case, we're just going to aggregate this one up together by stats type, and it's going to give me a total count for everything. And I'm just going to use the renamer here, like Kieran was mentioning. And what I'm going to get now is basically a summary for each one. So I now know that I've got stat 1 is going to be my total number of houses, stat 2, etc. And what I'm going to do is write this out to Excel. So this is going to basically be my summary page. So because these aren't very tidy names, they're quite long, quite verbose. If I'm to write all this data out to Excel and I want a separate sheet for each one of these stats, it's going to get really messy. So I've just created my lookup page on the front here. And then when I can come into here, I'm going to use a little lookup value to basically say if the data comes in and says it's total number of private households by household type, I'm going to say, well, that's stat 1, so I want that to go on my stat 1 sheet. If it's going to be total population by age groups, that's stat 5, so I want that to be on my stat 5 sheet in my output Excel. So I've got that nicely structured when I go through. I'm just sorting it as well. All that does is make sure when the Excel sheets come through, they actually sort sheet 1 to 5 really quickly. So I don't have to worry about ordering my Excel or messing around with templates or anything. It just sorts it all out for me. There are some duplicate information in the data set. So this one just does a little bit of housekeeping and tidies that up. And then we're just writing out our Excel document on this side. So I've got just my area name and my street coming out through here. And then I've got my lookup title, etc. coming through here. So I run that one through. I'm going to end up with an Excel document that has my sheet name on it. So this is my first lookup. So you can see that, okay, stat 1 is going to be this. The preview doesn't particularly well format the Excel, but it's just a little bit quicker than spinning that one up. And then we can see we've got our Excel So we've got our tabs, so we've got our stat 1 values coming in, our stat 2. So we've gone from, probably quite a noisy data set with a lot of information in it, and actually being able to pull all that information out, focus that a little bit, transpose that round, and then give us something that's much more workable, either as an Excel data set, or we can then start to ingest this into like so Power BI, Tableau, etc. And have that data ready for us, clean to actually start to work with, so we can just focus on generating the output, the analytics, and not really worrying about doing all that data cleansing and data management as part of that process. And I'm not sure, Kieran, did you get a chance to dashboard that one as well?
Did, yeah. I mean, very productive. And just to prove the point, I think I started this at 8:30 this morning, so my dashboards do prove that because they're also Mickey Mouse. But just to show you how easy it is then to bring these things in. This time I've got Power BI, just for Viva the difference. So just to show you again, we can see here, this is our Power BI sheet. We have our report view. We have the table view, which is showing, like as Gavin is saying, here is the lookup table. Here is the stat table. Each table we can see it. We can see the information is coming in the exact same way as what Gavin was producing it, and the different areas and the different information. Now, I didn't get a chance to produce a model with this. I just threw it in as it was. And like I've used DAX, and Power Editor and these kind of tools in Power BI. They are powerful, they can do a lot. But when you look at the manipulation that Gavin had to do there, you're writing a lot of DAX queries and trying to visualize that and remodel to where FME there is able to bring that data in, document it into a nicely visual representation. See, as you're going through with the visual preview, you're seeing Gavin clicking on the different locations, seeing the data, and then outputting it. And then it's literally as simple. I do prefer Power BI over Tableau. It's a personal thing. But in there, yeah, like we can then look at any of our stats, pick a column, add it to the widget, and straight away we've got our widget, and we can switch that across whatever we have. How quick it is once you've that data prepared with FME into a format, into a structure. Now, again, what we could have done, another step in the FME, again, if Gavin had loads of time, was probably take those 7 tables and create them in a flat view so that the user has a dimension and a fact, and they can very easy filter and cross-join. Sorry, that was my job. I should have done that in the modeling side, but I didn't have time. So that's how easy it is then once we've manipulated data for FME to pick it up, because once you're producing a file format or a database that Power BI can connect to, it is seconds then to build your dashboards and to build your insights. And you can really start throwing together some very neat stuff and doing some very cool queries and cross filters and things in your dashboards. There you go again. Actually loving the new FME desktop, slap hand FME form interface, as the new all the coloring and the boxes now, or the blocks for the transformers and everything. They look a lot nicer.
Yeah, I'm getting used to it. I still find it a little flat, so I think I miss the colors on the top bar more than anything. I think that's probably where it's the most bit I find a little bit more jarring. I actually have got used to these.
I like the canvas.
Quite different.
I like the canvas.
I think, and it is very much a first step into where SAFE are going with this in terms of what they want to do. So I think there's lots of ideas around about making the way the transformers work flow together more naturally, so you'd be able to stack transformers, link them together, etc. So I think they've got quite a lot of exciting ideas they're exploring, and this is very much the first step. The one thing I do like, you'll probably notice all the windows now hide and pop out, so they actually give you or disappear away, so you get more focus on the canvas than you had in previous versions. I think that's a huge win. Goes through. You can still pin them, so I have my visual preview, because you're saying it gives you that chance to actually see your data as you go through. So, and I think that's always really, really helpful, but you'll see they start to pop out. Gets a little bit, I'm still getting used to them. They sometimes jump out when I'm not expecting them to, as they go through, or don't quite jump out when I want them to. You also get the new schema preview. So what we can do now is we can actually see the schema of our data as it goes through the workspace. And with things like the attribute manager, we can actually manipulate that. So again, when we're looking at creating these outputs, we can take our source data, we can build our workflow, but we can also control what the schema is going to be like. So whether it's a text field, a number field, we can check and put all the validation in to make sure it meets those criteria, so that when we get to our downstream reports, everything's going to be very much what we expect it to be and have been controlled for it. And that's really what this example is showing. It's to say, well, those previous examples, it's all great because everything flows nicely, all the data's valid. Data's never like that. And I think one of the huge challenges with dashboarding and all these BI tools is that it's really, really easy to plug data into them these days, but there's no control over that flow. You don't have that lineage, that governance that goes into that data. So you can put anything up there. Somebody comes in, they can be looking at it, making decisions on that data, and it's completely wrong, or it's just not accurate, or there's huge amounts of it missing, and that doesn't get captured or controlled as part through the process. So one of the nice things obviously we can do with FME is we can do all of that validation. So obviously it's got a long history of doing this spatially, but it's got very, very strong tools for doing this on attributes and non-spatial data. And actually it's probably been doing the non-spatial side of things for longer than the spatial side, to be honest. Nobody's ever really thought to call it out. So one of the really good transformers for this is we can do obviously the attribute validator transformer, and we can actually start to put some rules in to say, does our data meet what we expect it to do? So we have code prefixes here. This is basically a data set of cellular signal strength and coming in from different cell towers and stations. So you can check to make sure that our codes are matching the specification. So this is using regex. So you can start to basically build little rules that come up and say, if this is got to be A, B, C, D at the start, and it can only have 3 characters at the beginning of it. If you've never played with regex, it's really, really powerful. It's a great way for testing your data to check. So you can say, is part of a data set ABC? If I wanted to validate an air code, for example, you can build up a regex string for air codes. If it was a credit card number, again, there's rules for checking those. It is a little bit like Voodoo. It's just really weird to get your head around. It's a very strange syntax. One of the really nice things that's in FME 24 is there's new AI assist. So this is one of the things where AI really does step in and help, because you can say, I would like a regex expression for an Irish air code. And in theory, this will run away. It's going to give me a warning just to say, we are going to contact a third party. This is going to go out to the internet in terms of connecting to the likes of ChatGPT. Just bear in mind what data you're sending from a data security point of view. I don't think there's anything particularly sensitive in my query. And it's going to go away and it's going to try and find that. So again, if you're building these rules up and you're not really 100% sure on what you need or how quite some of these things work, and some of this is really a little bit, you've got to know some of it to get it out, and you just have to go and Google it all. What you should now be able to do is run out, query the regex expression, and it'll come back and then give you that information. It's still a bit of a tech preview, as it says at the top, so it doesn't always work perfectly. And as this is a live demo, obviously it's not going to run for me. No, there we go. So it's going to come back and spit you back out a regex expression, and it's going to give me some test strings as well, so I can say what it's doing, and it's going to try and explain what it's found as well. I would always double check this. I would test this against your data set. It's like the sales guys, they're always confidently right. Doesn't mean they actually are right when they go through things. So we'd always just say, take it, have a look at it. Just because it's giving you an answer doesn't mean it's actually accurate. It's very good at coming back with something that's maybe not quite what you want. Sometimes you have to tweak your expression a little bit, but it's a really, really useful tool. And for very common things, works really, really well. And again, we can check to make sure things like the data types. So we talked about schema. So we've got that linked into our integer. So we can come and say, well, okay, they have to be integer values, throw an error if there's somebody's put a string in, for example, there's some of the lines have gone out. We can make sure that the quality and power, within a range, it's got to be at least 0. In this one, the number of measures, they only would have taken up to 10 samples. So anything between 0 and 10 is valid, but if it falls outside of that, we want to fail it. We can also check for type. So in this one, we're actually looking for JSON, but we can look for XML, date times, for example, time. So again, date times was a good one because that seems to be something that everything struggles with. Date times always drive everybody nuts when it's a data type. Is it the right format of data type, etc.? So you can start to check to make sure it's recognized as an actual valid date or date time with offset, which is basically time zones are included in there. Then obviously we want to check my station ID is unique, and whether my code prefix is one of the sort of listed here, so it's ABC, ABD, TXU, etc. So I can build all these rules up as part of this transformer. I can build things separately as well. So we've got things like the tester. We can separate some of those tests out into other transformers, but the attribute validator gives us a nice package to run through. So you can see 135 of our records there have passed through, but we had 13 that have failed for some particular reason. So you can see our attribute num measures rule failed. We've got our station ID, failed to check for uniqueness. Obviously, we've got some duplicate data going on in here as well. But this is also generated as a list. So because we had more than one query coming through here, or more than one test, it may fail on more than one of these outputs. So we know 13 records have failed for something. But if we explode that list, which is basically an array, so we're just flattening the array down into individual error messages for each one, we basically use the list exploder, and you can see we've actually got 15. So clearly a couple of those records had more than one thing wrong with them. So we can look down our element index, and you can see here, it looks like this particular record here actually had 3 things fail with it. So FME starts at 0. So if it's a 0, it basically means one thing failed. If it goes up from 0 up to 2, that means we've got 3 records that have failed. So this record here is obviously clearly a little bit dubious. Again, we can tidy all that up, and then we can generate an output report. So in this case, we're just writing out a simple output report. We're just going to write this as CSV. We've got all our attributes and things that we want to come out into that CSV report. So we now have that as something we can reference back and say, okay, we need to do a little bit of data cleansing. We need to go and look at those values. But we can also create a validation statistics report. And this is quite useful because this is something we can push out so that it goes alongside the dashboard to say this is what we think of our data. And this is where we can put and say a statement and say we actually think this is very good quality. We know these outputs are very good, or actually these ones over here, these metrics are based on maybe only half of our data that have come through. So again, we're just doing a little bit of processing, and what we're doing is counting up all of the attributes that we have, counting up our statistics, and then what we're looking for at the end is saying for each of our attributes that have come through here, so our station ID, our code prefix, we've had a total count of 150 records for those. 8 failed on station ID, 3 have failed for code prefix, etc. So we've got about a 5% fail rate, a 2% fail rate. So we can kind of start to put some quality statements against that to say, well, actually, number of measures, 2% fail for our sample. That's probably not terrible. 5%. But if that was 30, 40%, you might have some reservations about making any serious decisions on it. The guide might be there, so your dashboard might say, well, okay, this is generally what we think our data is doing. This is where it looks to be trending, but we're going to caveat that against this. And again, we can put those quality statements, that lineage in there, just to cover ourselves, really. That if you're showing this to your C-suite, senior managers, etc., that they are aware of some of the limitations of what's going on with the data sets as it goes through. So I think it's probably the quality side is the one thing that tends to get overlooked with a lot of dashboards, but it's super important. And actually FME feeds really, really well into this. And Kieran touched on the Data Galaxy product, with that lineage tool and things that go alongside that. And FME can drive these statistics into that kind of data governance lineage tool so that people looking at those lineages statements can see how all this fits together, which of their data sets are good, which of their attributes are good. So if they're looking to build reports, they can see, okay, if I'm building from multiple sources, which source should I take which one has the highest quality statement against that as you go through.
I was at the Gartner event last week with the FME team, and the big term that I took away that seems to be the new thing is data observability. It's even saying it's tricky, but again, it's not just data health. It's that whole the quality of data. How good is it? How good is it coming in? And also, you showed a wee bit of integration with ChatGPT there, Gavin, with the AI assist, but the problem, like I was talking to one person or one vendor was, or one presenter was speaking and said about, for years with analytics, it was garbage in, garbage out. Which is dangerous. And yeah, if you're not doing the data quality like you're doing there, we're going to have dashboards not running and giving wrong answers. But actually, when you add that into generative AI, if you're pushing bad data in, you've garbage going into your generative AI and gospel coming out because people think all AI is correct. So that's where you really, if you're not running your private models and your own data and you're using AI on top of it, you need to be sure that you're feeding it good information so that it is giving good information out, because people now trust these AI algorithms and are expecting the answers to be correct. And as we know, it's all down to the source and what it's driving those information on. Like your regex, if that formula doesn't actually understand air code data correctly, it could get it wrong, and it doesn't tell you, actually, I'm not sure about the air code. It gives you an answer anyway. So this level of data observability, understanding the quality of the data, where it's coming from, how authoritative it is becoming really, really important. I didn't do a dashboard on that one, Gavin. I thought that was
I thought
more
you
visual.
As I say, and I think it is things like this that you often probably data analytics people will understand the importance of data quality, but it gets forgotten about so easily as you kind of move up in seniority.
Very hard to do that. Again, some cool tools in Tableau, Power BI, these kind of systems. Very hard to build that level of data quality and go and structure into your workflows at the dashboard level. That needs to be done before it gets to the dashboard designer.
Yeah, and it's, I think, training data for AI. So I think as more and more models, people want to in-house models because often they don't want to push them out to the likes of ChatGPT, to Microsoft. You want to run it against your data for all those data security and data governance reasons.
Yeah.
Training data is hugely, hugely important. And again, that's where FME is very, very strong. It has to produce those training data sets, to do all that data quality, to bring all the disparate data sources together, to push that data out into a solid set of data that can be used, not just for AI, large language models, but for all the classic machine learning and things that everybody's been doing for the last, 5-10 years now. Generating that high quality data, so you've known, trusted stuff is really, really key. Because otherwise it is literally, like say, garbage in, garbage out, and it's confident garbage out, which is even more scary. So this one, again, it's just taking back to that, showing we can push the large data sets through. I've pre-run this one because it takes a little while to pull the data down. So we're looking for planning sites and planning points from the Department of Housing, pulling in their planning data sets. We've got two different data sets here. So we're quite actually more interested in the sites, because I'm quite interested in where the site boundaries are and the extent as my workflow goes through. But you'll notice here we've got 469,000 sites, but only 400. Well, we have 482,000 points. So what, if I understand this process correctly, seems to happen is that a lot of the locations will be captured initially as a point as part of the record, or some area councils only captures a point. And the polygon that comes in gets captured a little bit later on. So if I want all of that information, I can't just take one or other of these, because I'm going to lose some of that process. But because I know these share a common planning identifier, so I can send in and say, well, actually, I want to take my planning authority, and then I can take the application number. And I'm double joining these because I need to know the authority, because some authorities may share application numbers. They're not unique across the country. They're just unique within a planning authority. So if you've numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4, there's a chance another planning authority will have numbered them 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, when you do that initial join, you end up with some quite weird numbers coming out. I had millions and millions of records suddenly coming through on my initial run. And again, it gives you that visibility of what your data is doing, so you can start to drill into it quite quickly to understand that, to go, well, actually, I need to put in, Carlow County here as part of my join to come through. So that's going to give me all of my join data. It also threw up 163 polygons that have no corresponding point. So again, that could be a bit of a data quality problem. It doesn't really affect the process I was building, so I'm not going to worry too much about that one. But again, I may want to flag that up. And then for the remaining ones that I've got here, because I'm going to create a polygon data set, I'm actually going to put a buffer in. So again, I can leverage some of FME's spatial capability. And again, this is really where it starts to differentiate from just the simple tools that a lot of the BI systems have for playing with spatial. I'm just going to make my little points into little polygons, just so I can still see that they're obviously, not a natural planning boundary, but they are actually still going to then fit with my data. I'm just going to reproject them because the data actually comes in latitude and longitude, so it's kind of a global projection system, whereas I want to bring mine into the Irish system. So I'm just going to reproject my data. I'm then going to check to make sure that all of my data has an area. So again, do I have a geometry? Actually, turns out 3 of those records have snuck in and they have no geometry associated with them. So these records here actually are missing a geometry when they actually should have a polygon geometry. So again, that's a bit of a data fail, so I can pull those ones out. Again, we can do all the usual things, like I can tidy up some of my attribution, but I'm also creating a unique planning ID. So because there isn't really a unique ID for the whole data set, I've just come in and created a manual one here just as part of that process. And then I'm looking to make sure that the data I'm bringing through is actually matching. And again, looks like we've actually got a number of records here that are duplicates. So I can come in here and actually use the matcher transformer and get quite a fine-grained match going on with my data set. It does support spatial, but I'm just using this in the non-spatial context. So I can come through and say, okay, that's all my non-data, but I've got these match records here. So I can come in and say, well, actually, I've got this records in twice. So it looks like we've got quite a lot of duplicates coming in for a lot of these data sets. And I can start to spin across here and I can check to see, are the actually matches all the way across? Is it maybe that one field's different? But it does appear that for all of these, they're pretty much just some duplicate data snuck in as part of a process somewhere through. We'll also notice we're missing all the Irish eastings and northings for these fields. So again, I can actually populate that. So I can just pull a center of gravity in, pull that information in, and I'm going to round that up. So I'm just rounding those 2 fields because I need them to the nearest meter, but this could be any numeric value that I want rounding. If you've got values that are down to hundreds of decimal places for whichever process that's come through, I just want to round all my data up to give sensible numbers so that when we start to dashboard anything, that comes through a little bit more tidy. Again, some of the addressing information was a little bit messy. So you can start to tidy some of that up. So when it actually arrives at the dashboard, if somebody looks at the address, I don't have multiple commas where it's been concatenated. And there's obviously been an element of the address wasn't there. So the concatenation stuck an extra comma, etc. through. So we can start to tidy some of those up. Again, trimming it, just removing some of the white space, getting rid of some of those trailing commas that just look messy. So we can just prep the data to be a little bit more sensible. Again, there's double spaces, there's some extra space type stuff going on. So again, we can start to just tidy all that away so our final output looks a little bit neater. And again, just tidying up some of those attributes so that when we write them out, we can write that basically into our SQL data set now. And obviously we can connect any of our tools onto that SQL data, and we've got a cleaner, much more user-friendly data set that sits in that just one combination of both of those data sources that have come through. Let's say, did you manage to get a dashboard for this one? Sorry,
I
Kieran.
did, Gavin, but it's basic and we're running short of time, so I think I'll let you go on to your next one, and then because then we'll try and keep the time then.
Yeah. I say these ones next to are quite straightforward anyway, so it's really just looking at being able to blend multiple data sources together and actually how we can join that. So again, it's one of the challenges, as you start to add more and more data sets together, how do we bring that data together? How do we bring that through in a structured way? Write that out. How do we generate our output data sets? And do we want to create more than one output for maybe different parts of the business as we go through? So in this example, we're just connecting up to, it's a series of water meters. And then we've also got some property information coming in. So we can start to link our water meters to the particular lot, the properties that they're associated with. And FME gives us a couple of different ways to do that. We've got our feature joiner. So we can do a classic join. So this is like your equivalent of your SQL join, if you're familiar with SQL. We can use the merger, and we can do the same thing and merge data sets. So it's basically the same concept goes on in both of these processes. The merger, though, gives us slightly more control over what doesn't match. So where things don't join up, we get a little bit more control and visibility of that, so we can start to manage those data flows as they go through. So in this case, we've got a number of different folios. We get basically it's a joins to more than one record, we can actually concatenate that together. So again, in FME's parlance, it's a list concatenator, but it's essentially just an array being joined together with a separator, so we can get our folio, and we can have obviously all the folios that are associated with that particular property, for example. We can do straight database joins as well, so we can join out to other data sets to enrich the data that we're building through. As part of this process, we can bring that data through into here. And again, we can call out to our address. If we've got geodirectory, for example, we want to pull in our information. Again, we can join all of this data through. And in this case, we're just going to write out to an enterprise database. So we can write our water meters table out, our missing addresses information, so we can find out where actually we've got water meters, but because it hasn't joined, we don't actually have an address that associates with those water meters as it goes through. So we can write this maybe into an enterprise SQL that we could plug straight into a dashboard, but we might also want to then send out an Excel report to somebody to say, well, you need to go and have a look at this. And again, we're splitting this up into different postal code regions so that we can have different tabs for different postal codes. So somebody can start to maybe do a little bit more of a local analysis just on an Excel report, because again, everybody still uses Excel. It's probably still the #1 popular data tool. And we can do some fancy stuff, so we can generate a little HTML report as well, so we can start to visualize that, in a little bit more of a user-friendly fashion, maybe just for a standard user. We can come through, and it's going to give us our little maps. It's going to give us all of our zone information in here. We can click on this, and because it actually has photos associated with them, we can get the photo information dragged in, so somebody can click on that, and you can start to see, okay, that's the particular water meter, etc. Maybe you're sending this one to send it to a field engineer to have a look at, and want somebody to go out and say, well, okay, why are the addresses missing? Has this been miscoded, etc. As we go through. So lots and lots of options to actually start to join that up using the transformers. But equally, we've got some things FME can do where we can bring that data together. And if you are more used to SQL, FME has what it calls its inline querier. So it lets you merge all of those data sources together, and then you actually build the outputs that you want based on your SQL queries. So you can write your SQL in here and it will join it all up. So you don't have to worry about putting lots of transformers in. You can use the SQL skills that you've got, use that inline querier and generate your reports from there, that process. It's actually quite powerful when it comes through. So it's really, really good, especially if you've got a lot of data. It can be very fast at actually joining up a lot of that information. Or you can always go back to basic SQL. If your data is coming from databases, so that first example, it was quite a disparate set of data. But if your organization's got all of its business data in SQL, in Oracle, for example, again, we can just use the standard SQL transformers, bring that data through. We can do an SQL execute, we can connect to other data sources, join information in onto it, enrich that as we go through, and actually use that as our data source. And then we build all that validation, etc., the reporting, the tidying, everything else up we've spoken about, and we can append that onto the end of that workflow there as well. But it just means that, if you do have good databases and you've got good SQL skills, you don't just have to use the transformers, you can leverage some of that more power functionality as well. But, if you look at SQL and think, oh, that's a bit scary, again, you've got all the transformers to actually build it up. And sometimes the visual workflows are actually a nicer way to visualize the data, or at least maybe build them out first and then maybe compact it back into SQL. And again, with the newer versions, there's also AI Assist in here as well for writing SQL. So again, if you're not 100% sure on all your joins and the terminology, you can use that SQL statement to pull it through. So that will cover most of that, I think.
Excellent, thanks, Gavin. That's brilliant. Before I just go into wrap up with the last few slides, actually a very interesting question came in there, which is using FME to validate data must be done before it's available in Power BI, so it can't be real-time data, or have we missed something there? That's a very good question. So I suppose from my point of view, FME can work directly on the data, so it doesn't have. So if it's reading a database, it can manipulate and make the changes there. FME also has the ability to create APIs which are real time, so it can be that again, correct me if I'm wrong, Gavin, it can be that bus between the data and your application like Power BI. So it can actually be in pseudo real time, doing the manipulation as the data comes in. Or what else would you see on that one?
Yeah, I think it's very much where, say, for seeing everything fit together, where it's starting to data flows more constantly now. It's not, I want an ETL one job at midnight and run the data through. It's much more transactional. So as the data comes through, it might be that individual records are coming through. So say a new update appears in the database, that gets fired into FME. It goes through all that validation process, and then that updates your dashboard. The things with Power BI, Tableau, again, we can start to talk to the APIs. So you can actually, when the data comes through, you can trigger those refreshes as well on the API side. I know we've got a number of customers looking at that at the moment, so that as the data comes in, it writes it into whatever sources that the dashboards are reading from, and then the API triggers that refresh, so then the dashboard gets updated, and again you can put a new timestamp to say it's valid at this date. But yeah, data velocity and that constant data flow through now is definitely something that seems to have picked up a lot of traction in the last few months, especially with people coming in.
Yeah, no, definitely, and I think, Gavin, as well, FME doesn't store data. So yeah, maybe that's the piece that we maybe brushed over or didn't cover. We're manipulating the data at source wherever it needs to be. So yeah, we can be as real time as anything, but it's not a data warehouse. We're not. We can move the data, we can process the data. So we're part of that pipeline and that data velocity, as you say, Gavin. That's
like
important.
IoT and things like that, where messages are streaming in constantly. You'd be bringing it in, validating the message to make sure is it within the tolerance we expect for a particular device in terms of flow, temperature, or whatever. And
definitely, and yeah, like I think. Yeah, no, and it's that zero ETL approach is the big thing now that FME is supporting as well, and we do with some of our customers where we forms where FME is gathering the data and pushing it and getting it ready for the data warehouse, ready for the analytics, whether having that overnight batch or whatever. So yeah, no, I think so. The other question there, will this recording be made available? Yes, it'll be on our website. Tanya, who is in the background here, will be chunking it up and making it available to all attendees and anybody else on our website as well later on. Okay, this is where you did most of the demos, Gavin. We're nearly running out of time. You put a lot of stuff in today, which is great. So let me just finish off. FME for dashboarding. As you've seen, we can create data pipelines in a low-code, easy-to-use platform. I think Gavin has really shown you that visual piece. And of course, everything we're doing there on the desktop side or on the form side can be completely automated through Flow. So again, that's how they will be run and run seamlessly in the background. We can then integrate and aggregate your data to provide a single source of truth for analysts. As you've seen, pulling the data through so it's ready for the analysts in our dashboard and dashboarding solution and of choice, and providing that cleansed data. Gavin did a lot there of showing you how to pull out the bad data, only push the good data in, so that then they're working on the information. And then, as I mentioned, automating that process. We didn't cover the automation today. There are other webinars on our website where we have the automations if you want to see that kind of stuff. Coming up in the next couple of webinars, we had our Powering Enterprise Dashboards today. We've Data Galaxy for that data governance on the 29th of May. Geez, not that far away. It's coming quick and fast. Databuilders.ie, upcoming webinars if you want to register. And then Gavin and I are back again. God, a week later again. These are really quick and fast. The 5th of June for the FME 2024. You've seen some peak previews today. Yeah, I've seen because Gavin's been running 2024, so we'll be showing some of the latest workflows. And I think definitely we'll be focusing a bit more on the automation side. Gavin won't be. We'll be showing what's changing there because there's some really cool stuff on that side. I think we've taken any questions. We've got about 2 minutes. If you want to throw any other questions into the chat, we'll be happy to take them. The recording will be made available online. And if we've missed anything today, feel free to reach out to myself or Gavin. I hope you all found it well. Gavin did a great demonstration and put a lot of work into it, so it's great to see. So and I'd like to thank Tanya in the background for organising everything. One question coming in, I think. Give it a second.
Yeah.
No, thanks. Yeah.
Just a thank you. Yeah.
No problem. Okay, well, I think we're dead on time. It's 1 minute to 11. So yeah, thanks everybody for attending. Hope you enjoyed the session. If you need anything else, please let us know. Thanks, Gavin. Thanks, Tanya.
Thank you.